It's pandemic time. TCRS episode 15. Last time we were here, I was very underestimating of what this pandemic could do to the sports world. And now we're back. And now there's still stuff to talk about. Shout out to the NFL free agency. But all in all, this show is going to be a relatively short one. We're going to talk about Tom Brady, go into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Olympic postponement, and some big-time news updates, as well as my favorite pandemic pastimes so far as we continue through this coronavirus hysteria and surviving a pandemic. Something we'll be able to tell our kids about. Welcome in. Don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Chris Rennie Show, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chris Rennie CFB. As always, subscribe and rate the podcast, and enjoy the show. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that. Make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. So as the world has been coming to an end temporarily, I've become a big book guy. Tom Brady did the unthinkable. And I, as a podcaster, am still an essential employee. And through this pandemic, I have not been doing my public service, delivering news all the time. I've been playing a lot of video games and watching movies and television and getting caught up on a lot of the entertainment I missed, so I can have more references. And also because entertainment's enjoyable, and it's hard to find stuff to talk about that's interesting because I don't know anything about pandemics, so whatever. And I just, I've been talking Ohio State football on my other show, so it's not like I haven't been. But we're here. And I know everyone needs entertainment, and I'm providing it right now. And we'll be providing it for the rest of this pandemic, per usual. Every pandemic I've been here, providing entertainment for you all. This is the only one, but I provided entertainment. So now, I personally have gone back to the original entertainment in a new way. I bought a Kindle. I got it shipped on Amazon, and now I've been reading books. I now know more about the Roman government than most individuals, and I'm only a chapter or two into it. I can't even remember because I've been reading so many different books. You guys remember that crappy book, Great Expectations, you had to read in high school? Well, I'm reading it again, and I actually kind of enjoy it now. Weird how that works. It's not as hard to read either. I don't get headaches when I read right now. I think it's because I can turn the light down on the book, and I can read in the dark. So I've been reading, and, this time's... So yeah, this time it's been hard for everybody. The government hasn't helped yet. We'll see. I've been trying to not go down into the depths of cheap sports argument. I do not care if LeBron is better than Jordan enough to debate someone with it on my show. I think that's cheap sports talk. I think it takes away from what can actually get done on a sports talking show. And now I'm discussing real conversation topics. It's easy to go and do what Max Kellerman and Stephen A do and yell at each other about if LeBron's the best player in the world or if Giannis is. You do it every day. You see it on TV every day, so I don't need to add more to that conversation. Do I think LeBron's the best player of all time? Yes, but I'm not going to cheapen my show with those cheap debates unless I have a friend on. Then we could get cheap. And, I have not figured out how to work Skype. I'm an old man now. I've graduated school. I am 23, and in the world, I'm officially young still. But in my own life, I'm as old as I've ever been, and I'm fighting a pandemic. Yep, so on the internet, if you have any weird doomsdayers you'd like me to reach out to interview, that would be a fun show. I wonder how they're doing right now. If you have any links or Twitter feeds or YouTube channels, I will reach out to them. I will podcast with them, hopefully. And that could be fun. If you guys know any doctors who would like to spread the message, I'm an open outlet. Likes and retweets always appreciated to spread the word. I'm not what some will refer to as a prophet, but I can be. And if that is needed, I will do it. I will step up and be prophetic and spread the message of what needs to be done for survival, for the government, for whoever. If you want to be a revolutionary at this time, I'm here to spread that message. Let's have some fun. I got nothing to lose. So yeah, but the good thing is, right now I don't have to do that because I'm getting caught up on the free agency stuff. I've been following, obviously, but on my show. Next show, I don't even know what we're going to talk about because that second wave is not going to be answered until there can be in-person interviews, and that's going to be a challenge. I bet they're still meeting in person. I know the NFL doesn't care about social distancing. They're planning to move with the draft as it was already established. So we'll see. But yeah, on this episode, we're going to be talking Tom Brady, Tampa Bay. We're going to be talking the Olympic cancellation, some other big news, and then my favorite pandemic pastime so far as we've gone through this coronavirus. And yes, the number one pastime is eating. And if I see another tweet about how eating is the only way they pass the time, or when you're only going to eat one donut and then 15 minutes later you're on 2, and then 5 minutes later you're on 3 because that's the only thing you can do to pass time, we get it. It's a funny joke. It's been funny this whole time. Keep posting it. Or don't. I am indecisive, and we just need entertainment. I posted a good meme yesterday. It was all these Spider-Mans pointing at each other, and it's like days of the week right now. And yes, they all feel the same. I think it's Wednesday. But when you listen to the show, it doesn't matter what day it is. We're here together, and that's what matters. Social distancing. All right, so before I get into Tom Brady, I just need to clarify that I always confuse the Olympic Planning Committee member's name. I can never remember if it's Dick Pound or Dick Hammer. That's real. That's not a joke. That's his name. So we're going to put that at the front of the show, so when I get there, if I say one or the other, it's the Olympic Committee guy who canceled the Olympics. All right. So now let's get into this show. It's Tom Brady to Tampa Bay. That's the segment. So I've been seeing this tweet a lot, and it's a list of all the crazy things that have happened so far in 2020. It starts with small things and continues to get bigger. If you really do look at in 2020, all the crazy things that have happened. Some people are calling this the end of the world. We'll see. The royal family has moved to Canada, or is planning the move to Canada. That's pretty insane. Gritty, the mascot, is under investigation for assault. That's pretty crazy. Apparently, Mr. Peanut died. So that's a big one. The Circle, the show. Australia was on fire. That's a pretty big one. That's 2020. Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash. So the list keeps going and it gets crazier. Now we're in a pandemic. We are in a pandemic, and that still might not be the craziest thing that's happened this year. Tom Brady, the arguably greatest quarterback of all time, has moved away from a team he spent nearly 2 decades with, won 6 Super Bowls, and broke countless records as a quarterback for, has left New England. He's left the Boston, Mass area. He is no longer in Harvard Yard. He did not like The Departed as much as most people, and that is why he is separated from New England, or at least that's the only reason I can think of. He must have seen the town and got scared. You know, there's a lot of robberies going on in that Ben Affleck flick. Ben Affleck flick, yeah. He's got a back tattoo. Tom Brady will probably get a back tattoo next because he's making crazy decisions. But is the decision that crazy? We'll see. So when I was reading about Tom Brady's move, I got to find the article real quick. So I will pause the recording so I don't quote this article incorrectly. But the gist of it is Tom Brady was eating with billionaires. Tom Brady was eating with Derek Jeter dinners in Tampa Bay. Tom Brady was looking at the roster and saw a lot of opportunity there. And that is sort of what has opened up his eyes to the beauty of retiring in Florida. So yes, all right, rereading through that, as I should have done before I started recording, as a professional would have done, as a Big J journalist would have done, I realized that Tampa Bay's general manager, Jason Licht, was a scout with the New England Patriots in 2000, and he was in the draft room the year the Patriots selected a quarterback out of Michigan in the 6th round. His name was Tom Brady, for those of you who don't know. This article is by Rick Stroud. It's from the Tampa Bay Times. This is why you should support local journalism, because you get great stories like this for teams. And when you want to do research on your favorite team, the local beat writers and the local reporters tell the story a lot better than any national host who's not there every day can. Unless it's that ESPN Cleveland crew and whoever Mary Kay Cabot works for. So Tampa Bay, they have an old connection in Licht. Bruce Arians is one of the better quarterback coaches of the last so generation, I'd say. He was one of the original quarterback gurus, and when I read you the list of who he's worked with in a little bit, it's going to make a little bit more sense on why Tom Brady would want to play for a guy like Bruce Arians. You know, he had been working with Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick, and McDaniels is a good offensive mind. He worked really well with Tom Brady. But at some point, you need that new voice in your head. You need that new challenge. You need that new motivation to get you to elevate once again. And he wasn't getting that in New England. And I think that's an interesting part you have to look at from a competitive standpoint. Tom Brady knew in New England he could get to 11-5 and 12-4 or win the AFC East, but could that roster be rebuilt to take on a team like the Chiefs? You know, in the NFC South, it's going to be a challenge. You've got former MVP Matt Ryan, you've got Drew Brees, and you've got Carolina, who's probably going to be the worst team in that division now this year because they don't have an established quarterback. Then you go and you look at the rest of the NFC outside it. You've got Seattle, who's pretty good. You've got the 49ers in the West, who are pretty good. You know, you've got some pretty solid teams. In the AFC East, you probably still could have won that pretty easily, but you did not have the same weapons, and I'm going to read through some of those in a minute. But Tom Brady saw that there was a weakness in what the Patriots organization was doing. And that big weakness is they don't have guys like Mike Evans there. So, yes, let's go. So the 6-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, instead Brady interviewed Light and Arians. And he asked more questions than them. What Mr. Rick Stroud said in his story was that Tom Brady, his preparation was next level. He knew all about Arians' offense. He probably has been studying film on it for the last couple months. Eager to operate it, could recite by position the list of Bucs offensive weapons. He is intrigued by the notion of having 2 Pro Bowl receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Both very, very good receivers. And the one question, he knew they were talented receivers. Everyone with eyes can see that Mike Evans is a top 5, top 10 receiver in the league, and Chris Godwin's a top 10, top 20 receiver in the league. He wanted to know, are they good guys? And Light responded that they're the best guys. And when you watch how competitive Mike Evans is and how good of a football player Mike Evans is, you can see it on the field, and that would interest me at 42 years old if I'm trying to get one more Super Bowl. Now, the question mark everyone else is sort of clamoring about is, why would Brady leave that New England defense? And when you look at how well the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense played in that last half of the season, it's not that far off, and Todd Bowles is a very well-respected defensive coach, and without all those 31 interceptions that Jameis Winston threw, I think this defense could be really good. Obviously, they need to bring back guys like JPP and some of the veterans who probably would have left had Tom Brady not signed, but now that he's there, you're going to start seeing guys take hometown discounts to play with the GOAT. That's what they'll be saying. This other quote that is exciting for Bucs fans is that Tom Brady spoke with a teenager's enthusiasm about playing in Tampa Bay. Who would have thought? Not me. I have never been enthused about the Tampa Bay Buccaneer uniforms, the way they look, that dumb logo. Their franchise's record is the worst in American sports. They have a 392 win percentage. That's terrible. Most teams hang around that 500 mark. They have good eras. They have bad eras. Some, like New England, are usually relatively good. The Steelers are a long-time winner. The Cowboys, but there's not many teams. I think it's the Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who are on the other side of that, who've just been bad mostly the entire existence of their franchise. The Bucs checked all the boxes with what Tom Brady wanted. The list of demands were his players, his teammates, his future teammates' phone numbers, collaboration with all offensive personnel when it comes to game planning, and money was very low on the list. And he signed a 2-year deal with $50 million guaranteed. I think they were $30 million contracts, and he could earn another $9 million with performance incentives. So that's awesome. So he's going through his physical. He's got all that. He knows what Bruce Arians want. He's known Byron Leftwich. Quarterbacks coach Clyde Christensen is someone he respects. So he didn't ask, for any specific players to join him. He didn't even ask to wear number 12. And that is the type of respect he is giving his future teammates, because that is what it's all about when you're 42 years old and you want another ring. Now, we look at other players who looked weird in different uniforms. Wayne Gretzky, the Los Angeles Kings, LeBron James in Miami, and now the Lakers. It doesn't look right to me, but I still support the man. You go through the list. Michael Jordan in Washington. At first, Peyton Manning in Denver. That felt really weird. Joe Montana in Kansas City. Did I already say that? I feel like I did. Pretty sure Steve Young played somewhere else as well. Trent Dilfer and his 9 teams. That always felt weird when he had to switch uniforms. Like Josh McCown, it feels normal. Trent Dilfer, that dude always seemed like stability incarnate, and he never actually was. Whenever you're Trent Dilfer talking on ESPN, that's what it feels like. But yeah, we'll keep the conversation going. So, Tom Brady to Tampa Bay. We didn't think about that. And now, when I was reading more into it, Tom Brady had been getting lunch with Derek Jeter. For those of you who don't know, the New York Yankees, their spring training is in Tampa Bay. So Derek Jeter was there. He lives there quite some time. He's a big real estate investor there with some of his billionaire friends. So that business side of the growth of Tampa Bay as a city was interesting to Tom Brady. Old people love to retire to Florida. I don't think Tom Brady's going to retire to Florida. I think he's going to retire to like Sao Paulo or someplace we're never going to hear of again, because that seems like how his story is going to go. Maybe it's Wisconsin. Maybe it's somewhere in Europe. That's Tom Brady. We don't know. So let's take a look at his stats from the last 3 years, because a lot of people are saying you're getting a cooked Tom Brady. So this was Tom Brady's worst year in a while on completion percentage, worst year since he was a young guy. So what you're getting is pretty much you're going to get 24, 25-year-old Tom Brady now at 42. He threw for 4,000 yards last year, 24 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. That's a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Pro Bowl level still. He's very good at what he does. He had a 253.6 yard per game. One interesting thing I keep seeing is 13 months ago, the dude had just won a Super Bowl. So it's not like you're that far away from having the possibility of this more limited Tom Brady winning a championship. Now, don't get me wrong, you're checking ages and ages and ages off the list, and soon enough, he's going to be on this planet for half a century, and he's still going to be competing for Super Bowls. That's what the pace feels like. I think Tom Brady playing till 45 is very reasonable at this point. I think Tampa Bay is going to get 2 or 3 years out of this older version of Tom Brady. He is a guy who is very serious about maintaining his health, and I think Tampa Bay will continue to win some football games. It's going to be a good run for them, regardless of if they win. The only thing you really have to worry about if you're Tampa Bay is you got teams like the Seahawks, the 49ers, who are young, experienced teams now. You've got, in the South, you've already got a really solid rival in Drew Brees. In the NFC East, you've got pretty decent teams in the Cowboys. The Eagles are very consistent football teams. None of them are world beaters by any means, but they're consistent. They're going to be there. So you got some challenges, and Tampa Bay has won a Super Bowl. Gruden's done it there. Tony Dungy almost did it there a couple times. So it's not like it's impossible. It's not like Tampa Bay is this when they're bad, they're really bad. But when they're good, they're really good. So that's the balance we're playing with here. There is no balance. It's a teeter-totter. There's only two sides of this. So you're getting a Tom Brady who over the last, 3 years with the Patriots won 36 games and lost 12. So he's got a 75% win percentage. That was quick math. I'm actually really impressed I did all that real quick. Don't fact check me on it because then I'll feel dumb. But statistically, he's still a pretty solid quarterback. He's an above-average quarterback in the NFL. And with the right personnel and weapons around him, you could probably get him back to that 32 touchdown to 8 interception one. You saw how effective he was when he had an all-pro wide receiver in Antonio Brown this year. And obviously, whatever happened there is going to happen there. Mike Evans, on the other hand, he is, I think, a better type of target, and then what does Tom Brady love? He loves his tight ends. You've got Cameron Brate, who took a hometown discount to play with Tom Brady. That's the advantage you get when you have a guy who has shown he is going to win. He's going to bring culture with him. So when you look at the weapons, the New England is significantly better at running back. They have Sony Michel, who's going to probably be a Pro Bowler this year, James White, who's the best receiving back in the league, and Rex Burkhead, who's the best of both worlds. Good at receiving, good at running. So when you had Gronk, a legitimate weapon, when you had Josh Gordon, a legitimate weapon, that offense was just flying. Brandon Cooks with Gronk's a really good receiver, but once Gronk left, a lot of those nice little things where Gronk takes so much in the middle can now be, you could attack the running backs in pass coverage rather than letting the running backs attack you. So now you've got Cooks and Harry at receiver, and I'm not sure who else on New England. I know there's some roster turnover going on right now, and we're not really going to be able to break down and compare the rosters fully until the season. But you look through what they have. So pulling it up, they've got Julian Edelman and N'Keal Harry, Mohamed Sanu, some older guys, so it's not great when you look at it right now. Jarrett Stidham's your number one quarterback in New England. Brian Hoyer's too. All right, so you got Julian Edelman, Damiere Byrd, Matthew Slater. You got Mohamed Sanu, Jacoby Myers, Devin Ross, N'Keal Harry, Gunnar Olszewski, Quincy Abuja. So now we're going to go look at our Tampa Bay Buccaneer depth chart, and that's really where you see the differences made. You know, when you look at the talent there, you've got Tom Brady, the starter. Looks like they didn't bring back Barber, so it's going to be Ronald Jones and Dare Ongubawale. Then you've got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, and then you're going to have Cameron Brate, and I want to say O.J. Howard's going to be back again. And Ndamukong Suh's returning to the Buccaneers to anchor that middle. So, yeah, you really do have some very, very talented personnel here. When you look at free agency, when you look at what they're going to be able to accomplish this year and how they're going to be able to build this NFL team, you know, people are trying to find running backs to sort of go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, Melvin Gordon was a big talking point. He is not anymore. He signed with the Denver Broncos. So who do you have left on this sort of list? You've got Devontae Freeman, Lamar Miller, you got Carlos Hyde, LaShawn McCoy, Chris Thompson, Frank Gore, Theo Riddick, all guys who say they have some stuff left in the tank. I believe the best one on this list would be probably a Devontae Freeman. Obviously, that's why he's at the top. I like Chris Thompson. You make that sort of free agency trade with Chris Thompson and Peyton Barber switching teams. So, yeah, you look at the roster. You look at who is updated. You know, Theo Riddick's had some success in his career. Isaiah Crowell was a guy on the Browns who had his moments. So there are running backs out there that you could give a shot to, camp invites, small contracts that could end up popping off again, who have had success in their career, but likely that's probably not going to happen. I think when you look at Ronald Jones, he's a guy who has flashed but hasn't really shown anything. I do think they're going to bring in a running back. Will he be better than Jones? Probably not, but when you look at it, yeah. So, and you had Mike Evans, if you had Godwin and you had Rashad Perryman, I would put that receiving group up against anybody else in the league. Rashad Perryman revitalized his career in Baltimore, then in Cleveland, and then in Tampa had a really, really solid year last year, but definitely increased his value a little too much. The Buccaneers chose to keep Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and bring in Tom Brady. And then at tight end, you've got Cameron Brate, and I will double-check on O.J. Howard, but I'm pretty sure he's still there. Yes, he is, and he's a very talented receiver. So he is a guy last year, or is that his career? I believe it was last year. He had 432 yards, 26 catches, and 6 touchdowns. I think Cameron Brate's probably going to take over the starting role, but having 2 good tight ends, that's Tom Brady's wheelhouse. You know, I know there's been some smaller names that have worked their way in and out, but Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, we all remember that. We all know how the Aaron Hernandez story goes. I don't need to go down that rabbit hole with the memes and the jokes. But when you have 2 great tight ends, it makes it a lot easier on a quarterback. So the next aspect of this is what makes the O-lines of these 2 teams so good. And when you go to Pro Football Focus's offensive line ranks, everyone's like, will the Buccaneers have a bad line? Well, you guys are casuals. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the 7th best line by Pro Football Focus. Ali Marpet's one of the best guards, and Ryan Jensen will be anchoring that middle moving forward, and he is one of the highest rated players at his position by Pro Football Focus. So, yeah, he's a very good player. He only allowed 1 sack last year. So we look into their offensive line. It's a pretty solid offensive line. Jameis Winston didn't have many pressures. He still threw a lot of interceptions because when he did get pressured, he fell apart. Tom Brady is not going to do that. And I think when you've got a guy like Tom Brady, you've got to trust his judgment on this. New England's offensive line coach, their long-time one, their their lifer, like the Don's right-hand man. It's the Joe Pesci of the crew when it comes to New England coaches. He's always there. He was a very integral part to the way the organization was ran. But at the end of the day, it was just his time. And he's a little older. And he had been coaching the offensive line for so long. And, Dante Scarnecchia. He finally retired after 48 seasons coaching football. That is a career. So, yes, now the infrastructure of New England is not as strong. And the last part of this you really need to look at is Bruce Arians and his success with a 43-year-old quarterback. So, he has revitalized careers before. So, you look back at the quarterbacks Arians worked with, and he's had a lot of success. Arians' biggest one that sort of elevated him to major head coaching candidate was Andrew Luck. He was the OC and quarterbacks coach. He worked with Andrew Luck, made it to some AFC championship games. Big Ben, he helped Big Ben get to his first Pro Bowl after his motorcycle accident. Peyton Manning went from leading the league in interceptions to the MVP conversation in his 3 years with Bruce Arians. So at every stop, he's had success. And the most comparable guy to him is Carson Palmer. To me, Carson Palmer was a little older. He had been not. Tom Brady's struggles are a little different, but So he worked with Carson Palmer, and he threw after. I'm trying to think the process of it. I'm going no notes on this part with Carson Palmer. He played for Bruce Arians for 5 years. The first year there, he went very Jameis Winston-esque with like 33 touchdowns to like 26 interceptions. Then he got hurt midway through the year and was having a pretty solid season, and then came back and had his best year in his career with like 36 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. So it all came full circle. He was a solid quarterback his last 2 years, and then eventually just sort of aged out. And then Bruce Arians lost his job, and then you know how that always goes, and the franchise just goes a different direction. So he's gotten the best out of every quarterback he's worked with, including Jameis Winston, who had a career high in touchdowns. It's just he also had a career high in interceptions. And a big part of that is Bruce Arians prefers to utilize a vertical passing attack, which requires good decision-making, and that's not Jameis' strength. Jameis needs a coach who is going to draw up easy completions for him. That's not Arians. Arians has his way, and Tom Brady will excel at that, in that vertical passing, that sort of levels style offense, where if you make an overthrow, it's going to get picked more often than it's not, and that's where Jameis struggled. Jameis Winston also had a lot of dropped interceptions, and that's where poor decision-making comes into play. So, Tom Brady is one of the best decision-makers in the NFL. So, what we're going to find out is teaming up with Bruce Arians the best decision? Is teaming up with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard the best decision? Is his defense at Tampa Bay going to be better than his defense in New England? We'll find out. And the biggest thing we're going to find out is who was the system. Because if Tom Brady excels and wins the Super Bowl and the Patriots completely fall off, we're going to know that Tom Brady had a bigger role in these wins than we thought. And if Bill Belichick gets Jarrett Stidham or whoever he signs as their quarterback or drafts as their quarterback to a Super Bowl in the next couple of years, we're going to know that it was Bill Belichick. But if they both are successful, we are going to know that it was a very well conglomerated team effort. And that's the Tom Brady conversation on his free agency. So the next conversation topic, as the NFL season progresses and the NFL work year continues to just be normal, we have something that's not. The Olympics are being postponed a year due to the coronavirus. COVID-19 gets its... I'm not going to make that joke. COVID-19 takes its place in the sports world once again, and The Olympics postponed. Dick Pound, not Dick Hammer, Dick Pound. All right, so after a final Google search, we're going with Dick Pound. He is, let's find his job because I've got the Google pulled up. He is a Canadian swimming champion, lawyer, and prominent spokesman for ethics in sports. He was the first president of the World Anti-Doping Agency and vice president of the International Olympic Committee. And he has been the voice we've been hearing talk to most news outlets. This is big news, but of all these sports that needed to be canceled for the coronavirus, it was definitely the Olympics. Because when you hear about the Olympic Games, it's the athletes and then the news about the spread of bodily fluid and contact is usually a huge conversation point in the Olympic Village. People meet their wives in the Olympic Village, their mistresses in the Olympic Village. It's a place. It's a place some have referred to as an Olympic orgy. So the spread of the coronavirus was going to happen there no matter what. And, I mean, all those athletes are talking to a lot of people. After they spread it to each other, they're going to spread it to all the people interviewing them. And all the people interviewing them are around the fans quite a bit. And it's just, it would be the epicenter of a plague if the Olympics happened. It's so international. Obviously, it's the Olympic Games where every country in the world can compete in it, or except, well, a lot of Russians and some of the more questionable countries. But I'm not a politics guy. We're not going to get into that. That's not the part I'm going to talk about. But so the one thing that I will say is most people do not get excited for the Olympics Games until they start and the Olympic ceremonies happen, and then this is the sport thing that it's so traditional. It's so the opening ceremonies are always special. So it's gonna be crazy. Regardless, so taking this step and not having athletes travel from many of them epicenters of where the coronavirus is spread. You've got Japan who's hosting it, who's hit pretty hard. China, who's Japan's neighbor. You've got the United States, who always is a dominant force at the Olympics. And then you just go down the list. Italy's going to be sending athletes. And there's all of these places, Spain, Australia, England, all sending their best in the world to compete. And that brings fans. And, you can't have the Olympics without the fans. So there's just so many ways that this could just accelerate how bad this coronavirus is. So it was a very needed move, and Dick Pound was very, very forthright about the possibility of this happening. The athletes some are upset. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of hard work that goes in. You're going to have a year of just training because all the qualifications and stuff have been done. What's going to happen to the international track and field calendar? What's going to happen to the international swimming calendar, diving calendar? The rifle calendar, the air pistol calendar. All the sports involved in the Olympics. Basketball is going to be different. That's a Summer Olympic sport. Will baseball players be able to play in it? We'll see. So a lot of it's going in. But before I go, I need to talk about my favorite Olympic events. The men's hurdles, the steeplechase, where they have to jump into the water and jump over the water. That one's pretty cool. But the best event in the Olympics. And there was a night when I was watching this, and it was just sensational. And my mom had it on in the living room, and I think it was the 2018 Olympics. It might have been the 2014 Olympics, and these men were on this leather thing, and I was like, oh, what is this? This looks pretty cool. And it was these guys, and they were doing this thing with their hands, and they were dancing around this leather thing with handles, and I was like, I've only seen this in cartoons. What is this thing called? And my mom's like, it's the pommel horse. And I was like, It's pretty cool, and it was one of the most oddly satisfying things to watch these men do these perfect routines and then stand up at the end on their hand and then fall off and then stick the landing. And, you could totally tell when someone was out of rhythm and not good because the best of the best in the world were there and they did not mess up. And it was the best sport to watch. So when you're watching the Olympics, make sure you tune in to the men's pommel horse. This just in. It's big time news with big time host. Yes, so on this news update, quarterbacks always win. The first major players to make the move from XFL to the NFL are PJ Walker, the league's superstar, and Jordan Ta'amu. Both quarterbacks were signed to NFL rosters this past week, with PJ Walker going to reunite with Matt Rule in Carolina, and Jordan Ta'amu staying in the Midwest, signing with Kansas City. Both players lit up the league and had their teams in the playoff hunt in the inaugural XFL season, and as always, the quarterbacks always win first and always get the most glory. Both players have excelled in the position they were put in and took advantage of the opportunity the XFL provided. What does this mean for the XFL moving forward? If they have good quarterbacks, they're probably going to move on to the NFL and take on backup jobs that pay them significantly more money unless you can start throwing some cash their way. So that's big news. And on the other side of this quarterback news update, Cam Newton was released by the Panthers after seeking a trade. The Bears and Chargers are the front runners in my always correct opinion, and other teams in play are any team with a need at quarterback positions and bad draft picks. Think the Las Vegas Raiders? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what their quarterback situation is currently. I know they've got Derek Carr. I know John Gruden isn't the biggest Derek Carr fan. Other news in the world. Let's see what news is going on today. People are not social distancing. Get better at it, people. So the Senate has agreed on a bill that will pay Americans money. In Word, I think they're doing the vote right now, so I don't have any answers on that. Spain overtook China in coronavirus deaths. That is an alarming thing, and the one aspect about China is we don't know if the numbers are accurate. So we don't even really truly have an accurate death toll at this point in time, in my opinion. That's the most worrisome part about this virus. But the nation of Spain has recorded 3,400 deaths from COVID-19. The Ministries of Health and Science announced Wednesday the numbers pushed it above China in total fatalities. So it's getting dark out there, people. Stay inside, wash your hands, make sure you're using hand sanitizer. This thing is airborne, so when you have the opportunity, spray the air with not aerosol, that is bad for the environment, but Lysol, the germ destroyer. 99.99% of germs. This is not a paid advertisement. This is a public service announcement. Lastly, make sure you're cleaning your tables. Make sure you're spraying your boxes down. And make sure when you order something from Amazon, you do not communicate with the delivery driver because they are possible spreaders, as is everyone. So make sure you're keeping 6 feet apart. That's a good movie with Cole Sprouse from Zack and Cody. It's actually 5 feet apart. But that's because they are being rebellious, according to my girlfriend. So, yeah. So now, speaking of the pandemic, this is a smooth transition from a dark topic to a more, we're having fun with it. Yeah, so that was probably not the best attitude to take towards this segment, but we're going with it. So I have watched movies, most of them forgettable, because I obviously had trouble writing this segment, and then I watched some movies I would have never watched if I wasn't in a relationship, and one movie scarred me forever. If you guys are looking for something to, according to the internet, ruin your relationship or really challenge your thoughts, watch Midsummer. It's going to scar you. Don't be like the elders. It's a good movie. It's very well directed. It was nominated for a lot of film festival awards and was allegedly an Oscar snub. But when you look at how many good movies were made this year, it's hard to say any movie was a snub. The movies on my list in the future are rewatching A Quiet Place, The Invisible Man when it's available for rent, Frozen 2. Apparently Little Women is on the list. We're probably going to rewatch the Fast and the Furious series. Then a lot of the superhero movies are on the list. We don't know how long we're going to be here. But the best movie I've watched has been Hobbs and Shaw. That movie was about overcoming differences, creating friendship, remembering where you came from to take on the greatest obstacles you're going to face in life, a.k.a. Mr. Handsome, Idris Elba, the worst boss in office history. So, Stringer Bell, I forgot, yep. I want to watch The Wire soon. I haven't really watched it in its entirety. Everyone says it's good. Patrick Mahomes was recommended it by an older teammate who called him a Gen Zer. Very much deserved it, Patrick. Everyone knows what The Wire is. The other show I've been watching, Catfish. If you haven't watched it, watch that for the first time. Obviously got The Office in the mix, and then I've been playing a lot of FIFA. So in order, power ranking, how I've spent this pandemic. Number 5, podcasting. That has been the thing I've done the 5th least. It is a fun aspect. I'm going to get back into my writing blog, and we're going to write a lot of satirical takes on the world. Hopefully, it'll be fun. Without Winners, go check it out. Next on the list, playing FIFA. I have become a world-renowned FIFA player again. I'm very good at the game. I'm going to be taking my talents online in a few days as I get more and more comfortable with the control stick. I'm also adding Call of Duty Warzone to the list. I got to create my Activision account so I can play with my friend. We're going to run squads and duos and singles or whatever they offer. I haven't even opened the game up yet, but it's downloaded. 92 gigabyte download. I still have the oldest Xbox to date. It is literally an Xbox Day 1 Xbox. So, the hard drive's struggling a little bit on those big memories that are coming in to games today. The next one on my list is I have watched a lot of Catfish. Some of the best episodes we've watched, the Fat Kelly Price one. There was one today with this YouTuber who got catfished by herself, and then that catfish was catfishing someone else. So, yeah, it was crazy. It was a good episode. Yesterday, we watched one where a medium was involved. Legitimately, a woman was talking to this daughter's dad, who was a murderer, and everyone was like, no way, this is real. And then they get there, and this lady is bringing up just straight facts of just this all these facts that only the family would know. So yes, the show has completely engaged me. I don't know how I've been missing. I don't know how I'm missing these, how I missed this show for as long as I did. It's a phenomenal show. So then obviously number 2 on the list is watching movies. And then number 1 on the list is watching TV. The Originals, the spinoff of Vampire Diaries. I would not be watching that show if I was not in a relationship. But it's a great show. I have to give it all the credit in the world for keeping me engaged. I've been watching The Office, Parks and Recreation, Arrested Development. So yeah, we've been keeping it mixed up over here. And those are my pandemic pastimes. And if you listen to this and you are inclined, let's have a conversation about it on Twitter. Let's see what everyone's pandemic pastimes are at #pandemicpastimes. So that's going to be it for the show today. Make sure you're washing your hands. Make sure you're staying inside. Let's get this thing over so college football season can happen. If Tom Brady can sign with the Bucs, anything's possible. So we have to take this disease extremely serious, because if college football is canceled, I am going to jump off a bridge into a nice body of water. Not going to get hurt, but I will do it. I will have to, because that'll be the only thing I can do to entertain myself. All right, well, that's how I'm signing off today. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisRennieCFB. Go subscribe to the show and rate the podcast anywhere you listen to it. And enjoy your pandemic.